Today's topic is right to reputation. Okay. In most of the common terminology, what is it called? It is called right to dignity. Okay. Also known as right to reputation. Earlier, what did we discuss? We discussed the rights of RTI. Okay. The whole topic was related to how RTI has to some extent become a dead letter as commented by Supreme Court. But in today's class, we'll do right of reputation. Both are related to rights, okay, given in the fundamental rights, added subsequently. But the difference in RTI and right to reputation is single. RTI is for the common citizens, okay. It's not a very important topic, it's not a very important line to say, but for general information, RTI is related to the very common citizens, the empowerment of the common citizens. But right to reputation or right to dignity is mostly concerned with the elite class, the famous class, the Hollywood, Bollywood style class. Okay? So just keep that in mind. And there are particularly 3 reasons why we are discussing this topic. Particularly just 3 reasons. Okay, if you want, you can write them down. In simple, it means it is about your personality rights. What does personality rights mean? Very simple. Your individual identity is your personality. It might have 2 characteristics, some tangible, some intangible. We'll discuss that in detail. But the whole question is arising because someone is infringing on your personality rights. Someone is infringing on your personality traits which are core to you. And not just infringing, they are using it unsanctioned. Unauthorized, they are using it in a commercial sense, that is profitability or money wise. That is the major part of it. Now the 3 parts why we are discussing it is because now is the age of AI. That is the first thing. If you want to explain it, the first is that this people have been impersonating other people since long back, decades or so, centuries or so. Okay? People have been using fraud means copying others from decades back. Mimicry was going on long back. But with the boom of AI, with the use of AI, okay, it is in the fingertips of every individual almost. Earlier what happened was you needed to have a big system, a big computer with lot of coding knowledge or graphic designing knowledge to impersonate some people. For example, if you might relate to it, the earlier Terminator movies, okay, they used to copy the younger version of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it was done in what? Computer generated rooms. It was called CGIs, okay? Computer generated graphics. But now it can be done on a very mobile phone. That is how handy, how accessible everything is because of AI. Second is the word commercialization is now in use because whatever through AI common people are using, okay, it is all being monetized. Everything is money. Everything is economics. Just remember this. For example, if someone had been using my image just for namesake, okay, for a noble purpose like eradicating poverty, eradicating hunger, I would have no problem, right? But if someone is using my image, for example, again, to generate profit and that profit is not shared with me, then I'll have a problem. Or if someone is trying to taint my image, that will have a problem. The second major problem is the rise of commercialization through AI, through personality rights. And the third most important is why is the whole judiciary, Supreme Court, the media into it? Because of the impact that it is having on society. Like before the age of AI, okay, such cases were happening, but the magnitude, the scale was very less. The people who were being targeted were very less. Okay? But due to AI, to some extent, AI also helping personal vendetta. See, famous people are being traced and tracked down and their whole identity is being copied. But through AI, common people are having vendetta with each other. For n number of reasons. Society at large is also at grave risk, especially the vulnerable, the marginalized women, children. They are also at great risk. That was the brief introduction of right of reputation or rights of dignity. Given in which article? Article 29. Now we'll discuss the brief history. Okay, just for your in-depth understanding, not basics, in-depth understanding, this is the origin. Right of dignity. Okay. It was in Maneka Gandhi case when it was explicitly mentioned that what is right to dignity. Okay. Right to live a life, not just animal means. Okay. To right to live a dignified life. It was in 1978. Oh, it's already mentioned. It was in 1978. Okay. Now, before this, you have to understand a bit of the background, but if you want I can share in detail. There was a Gopala judgment, okay, in which briefly what the judgment was related to two things. What infringes your dignity is two. One is coercion or forceful action, and the other being handcuffs. These were the only two rulings, only two facts which had to be taken into account to bring into question whether your dignity is in question or not. Okay? But through this judgment, Maneka Gandhi versus Union of India, very large scope for the word dignity was emphasized or envisioned by the Supreme Court. Now, if you see, this was to some extent a watermark judgment, hota hai na, or watershed moment also, because prior to this, see, if you see, it was before this judgment, if you can relate to, and after this judgment, what all changed. We just hota hai na, learn in a few slides or just a paragraph what happened, but if you go into deeper consequences, then it almost changed the very idea of Article 21. See, Constitution to some extent is called what? A living document. Why? Because it keeps on changing itself with the changing times. So what is it called? Okay. It is called a very novel thing, doctrine of progressive realization of rights. Okay. If you want to write it down, doctrine of progressive realization of rights. With time, you realize your rights more. With time, you know what are your rights and you try to conquer more, learn more, take use of your rights, take advantage of your rights. See, that is just a legislation like doctrine of colorful legislation, doctrine of subordination. There are many doctrines. But to this case, how a right, how an article is becoming so large, how an article is given its true meaning with day to day, with how decades old. It is changing with time. That is called doctrine of progressive realization of rights. Now, very simple. We'll discuss the two parts. One is before this, whatever was the case, and the second is after this, what was it? To actually understand how personality rights have emerged, to actually understand the true meaning of personality rights. It is very simple. Okay. Earlier, what we used to have, it is mentioned in the article also, and you might have memorized it multiple times. What does a judiciary follow? It follows procedure established by law. Okay. There are two types. One is procedure established by law, and the second is due process of law. So after this judgment, what we have was procedure established by law plus due process of law. Now what does these two mean? When we were having parliamentary debates, 1947 onwards, okay, there was this debate that we should also consider the process of due process of law. What it simply means is there is a stark difference, not a subtle difference between these two. We use procedure established by law. It means whatever has been established, whatever has been specifically written down, we will follow those rules. We will not go behind the intention, behind the background of due to which that law or that act came up. We will simply follow the judiciary, the laws, the day-to-day running of everything will simply follow by what has been explicitly mentioned. Okay? That is the meaning of procedure established by law. Now what does due process of law mean? Due process of law means that you have to equally look into what the intention of the lawmakers, the fairness and the reasonableness, the justness of those people, then you will be able to understand what the law actually intends to do, the transformation which the law will have. So earlier we just had procedure established by law, but after this judgment, now the courts, the judiciary is taking into account both procedure established by law plus due process of law. Just a fun fact, knowledgeable fact, Ambedkar ji, he also emphasized in the parliamentary debates, as I said earlier, that we should have both due process of law and procedure established by law. But there was debate and it was mentioned that at that point of time it was not suitable, so it was given up, and it was easily said that with time that our judiciary, our constitution, our lawmakers will come up with this. And in 1978 this happened. Okay, this was the first part. The second major thing which was leading to this happened what? See, earlier you had protection against what? Only executive action. Like procedure established by law has been done, whatever law has been done. If the executive is going against that law, then the courts will come into action and they will declare it null and void. Okay? But what if the legal action, the legal procedure itself is wrong, itself is unjust, or itself the intentions are not right? Then what? Then earlier the courts had no say in it. But because of the involvement of due process of law, now even the legislative action along with the executive action can be called into question by the judiciary. This is the two major difference. Okay, the three words you need to remember is, it's mentioned over here, fairness and reasonableness. These two are the things which you have to remember. What does these two mean? We have to see the fairness, reasonableness and the intentions behind the lawmakers, behind the very act. That also has to be seen. Okay, now what else is required? Else is required Article 20. All this is under the umbrella ambit of Article 21. It is one of the most most used terms, simple text, and one of the terms which has been its domain, its dimensions has been made extensive by almost each year, every 5 years. This is all which is always in this article is always in the news. Okay, like if you see, its vision or its boundaries has been to some extent been expanding since our starting of the constitution. That is what I am trying to say. Okay, now another fact about this is Article 20, just a prelims fact that relates to both citizens and non-citizens. Remember that all the changes which you are seeing, right to dignity is also for non-citizens. You need to remember that. In the prelims question it might be asked that right to dignity again is applicable also for non-citizens. Okay, now, so what are the differences of, you understood the basic concept that in Maneka Gandhi case this judgment came up. Now let's come back to the core topic, which was personality rights. Now what is the definition of personality rights? See, there is no concrete definition, but in simple, what is your personality made up of? Okay, like to some extent we are not going philosophical terms, but your personality is, you might have always heard the term USP. What is your USP? USP is full form is unique selling proposition, but in this context we'll use unique selling persona. Don't emphasize on the word selling, just imagine it. What is your unique persona? What is your unique personality traits? Okay, now it can be like any genuine thing in two parts, the tangible, the intangible, which you can touch, which you can see, and the other which you can quantify, and the other which is not quantifiable. To some extent imaginative, like your handwriting, your signature, your degree, your certificates, all these are tangible parts. But the way you talk, the way you walk, the expressions you make, all this is what the intangible part. For example, very much for example, Rajnikant, to some extent he is like almost no one can copy him, but half of the world wants to try to copy him. So he has got some intangible traits which is very specific to him. Another example is the way Salman Khan or Sanjay Dev walks. Some people's voices, you get the idea, right? So it is unique selling persona. Now again, it can some extent is calculative. Other is these two make your persona. These two in cohesiveness, in synchronization is made you complete, whatever or whoever the individual may be. Now, why we need to protect it? Because there are negative consequences which are we seeing now. For example, I'll reiterate, if someone had been using any celebrity's image for something good, eradicating poverty, there would have been no issue. But now is the case of what? Defamation or commercialization, earning profits, making derogatory terms. Then it is a question of again dignity. The question of dignity, the question of reputation has arising. That is why Article 21 comes into play. Now we'll see a few examples so that you can relate it more, because you are the Gen Alphas and the Gen Zs and you know these things better than us. See, this is a page of just the recent cases why all this personality rights has been in use. You don't need to remember this, and especially you don't need to write this in your mains answer also, just for reference, passing by reference. These personality rights, through examples you can understand that what are the various dimensions of personality rights. Every individual, every celebrity has something unique in them and he or she is trying to protect that part. For example, Dalal Mehndi wants what? That toy should not be made in his image. His wishes. Abhishek Bachchan doesn't want anyone interfering with his right to livelihood by selling t-shirts printed with his photo and signature somewhat. Anil Kapoor he's got a universal famous catchphrase and he doesn't would use other people to use it. You can read this example, not important. What important is, you need to relate it with an example. Voice cloning is in the new talk of the town or new word of the town, whatever you may like it. Voice cloning. See, what is voice cloning? People can imitate you and to some extent replicate you. And in this world of AI, it is very difficult for an average human being, or to some extent a very sophisticated human being also who is not related to AI or coding or the computer stuff. The other intellectuals, the readers, the artists, For them also, it has been almost impossible or very difficult to differentiate between what is real and what is AI. For example, recently there was a movie, its name was Sayara, not important. The idea was there was a song in that movie, and that song had been replicated through AI in the voice of Sir Kishore Kumar himself, the past legend, and that was so accurate that there was a whole debate that whether the song is originally sung by him I mean Kishore Kumar or not, and there was a debate, and it was finally came to the truth that it was the work of AI. Imagine, that is the perfection of AI. So in the case of voice cloning also, you got the example, right? Arijit Singh and Asha Bhosle, they want that their voice might not be used for illegitimate purposes or for commercialization purposes also. Okay? The very idea is what? If someone is a part of the negative part, okay, a part of the defamation and the derogatory terms which are happening, if someone is earning profit, they should be given a fair share of it. Or, okay, we'll see in the next slide what it actually means. Okay? Now see, you understand the examples? Now here's the core issue. In simple, I'll say, to some extent, I mean blunt answer, the core issue is as simple as paisa. Okay? The core issue is again money, just money, because see, these guys are already famous. Okay? It's not a question of becoming famous. These guys are already famous. They're already in the limelight and everybody knows about them. Now, everything is about commercialization. So, everything is divided. Every aspect of individual's dignity, consent, is respect of consent dignity. Okay? Matlab everything is, we've heard the word consent, like in almost all the things. The word consent is in the 21st century most important. Okay? Two specific reasons like this. Now, we can see it in three parts. You see, usually people cover two parts. Okay? Public life and private life. Okay? Public life and private life. But because all the camera people are in the news, okay? Leaving apart those people, there is another section of society which is the public domain. The politicians, majority of the lives, or to emphasize the whole part of the life, is what? Public domain. See, they are not the ones who are going to the judiciary and asking for relief, because it is not being used in derogatory terms and in non-commercial terms. For example, before every Lok Sabha election or every state elections, whatever your particular state might be, you might be receiving calls of the respective prime minister or the respective CMs or of opposition parties in the voice cloning of the leader himself and asking you to cast their votes in their favor. In 2014 elections also, 19 elections on 24 elections also, most of them might have got a call from the ruling party or the opposition party in the voices cloned by the chief leaders of those parties saying to support us. But that was not called into question because it was done by the free will and by the consent. Again, the word is consent. The party itself consented to it, so it was not important. But in your answer, this angle is also important. Everyone is focusing on the celebrities part, but this can also be misused. Imagine someone just using AI or using all the high tech and framing some high politician. That can also be wrong. But as of now, it has not been highlighted. Now let's come to the famous personalities part. In the previous slide, we saw most of the cases of the Delhi High Court or the Supreme Court are related to them. Now, there's always two domains. One is the private domain, and the other was the commercial domain, the most important domain, which is directly reflected in profitability. Now, what does the private domain say? The private domain says that every personality, every famous personality, not so famous also, everyone has what? A personal life and a professional life. So, what they want is their personal life should be not intruded into. That is what simply they are saying. And the rest is what? The commercial domain, which is profitability. In simple, you want to earn from my name, my fame, it's okay. See, it's a general statement which I am making, but in most of the cases, it is there that if you want to earn in my name, I should get a share of it. Or if you want to earn in my name, at least I should be aware of it, my consent should be there. This is the point. But in the private domain, see, this can also be to some extent commercialized, but that is not so important. What they simply want is, this is the only case of famous personalities that they usually come up and say that we are common citizens, we also need a life, normal life. So don't just intrude in a private life. That is not so important. Okay. But see, this is a ethical part to some extent. That, as I told you in the first minute itself, this rights of personality, right to reputation, is mainly and only concentrated for the elite class, the famous class, whatever names you like. But what is this slide saying? Celebrities go to the court over personality rights. What about the common people? See, this again, the common people as of now, or to my knowledge as of distant future also, have no remedy. If people like us, if people like you, common citizens, if they go through someone is being derogatory to them or trying to defame them, make them infamous, what remedy do you have? Almost none. You have to see you have to fight a long battle for it, long legal battle for it. Okay? But in the case of celebrities, it is easy. We'll see in the next slide how. Okay? How is it easy? Okay, first we'll see what is the core solution. As we discussed, the core solution is consent. Consent in only the positive things, in only the commercial angles. But if someone is using your terms in a derogatory manner, I'm using this word lot sometimes, but in a negative fashion, then the word consent doesn't come into play. Then comes what? Criminal defamation is the word which we are looking for. Criminal defamation. Okay? But if it is all legal and profitability, commercialization into play, then the core solution is consent. Okay? Commercial exploitation profitability can be done if consent is there. Again, dignity, reputation, goodwill can be called into question if consent is there. And no external person, individual, entity or AI can do anything without consent. That is the whole idea, that the word is consent which you are looking for. Okay, what is the aim purpose? Why are people going to the judiciary? Why are people reaching the media houses? Or to some extent now, there are being media trials. Or why are people going to the legal aspects of the social media platforms itself? For constitutionally mandated protecting the right to dignity. Everyone has got his own dignity, his own goodwill, his own reputation, and at the end of the day, they want to protect it. Everyone, each and every wants to protect it. That is the whole idea. Okay. Now, please. Okay. See, if you want to write the impact, it's as simple as this. In ethics, you might have learned the stakeholder approach. Okay. Every question, every answer has to be what? Every person who has impacted / stakeholders, all the stakeholders which are involved. In the same fashion we are seeing this, the impact is on whom? All the stakeholders. Okay? The impact is on again whom? All the stakeholders. So who are the stakeholders? Very simple. Women, children, marginalized sections, okay? Minorities, to some extent majorities also. If you don't take just this example into question and we take to some extent a global view. Okay? For example, AI is being used to what? Defame nations itself. Bangladesh example, China example, Pakistan example, n number of examples. The whole system of AI or computer generative art, whatever you like to call, generative AI, whatever, that is also called into question. There's a whole machinery which is set in place to defame not just an individual, a nation as a whole. So majority is also affected. Next is government regime. It is very easy. Fake images can be brought up, fake profiles everything fake is these days. Okay? So it can also affect the legitimacy of government regime or government change. Like for example, take a very IR example, you might relate to it. Okay? USA is very much involved in Venezuela these days. Very much involved in Venezuela these days. And what happened was, the president of USA, he made a vague comment on drug trafficking and the people who lost their lives. Okay? Which was actually fake, given by USA data itself. But there was a section of people, of population, who very much promoted those clips of Trump himself. Now, for the rest of the world, whatever the president is saying matters, not what Trump is saying. Trump is an individual, but the post which he is having, the president of United States, POTUS, whatever this post says, that is important. So when he said something, disinformation or misinformation, but that was given as concrete proof to the other media because the president has said it. And the last is, and most important and relevant to Indian context, it is highly used for hate speeches. Okay? Every day, almost every moment, if something, we'll take the example of Operation Sindoor. Okay? There were many clips of our brave soldiers in uniform coming up and briefing us of what was going on. But through deep fake, voice cloning, impersonation, or simple just through AI, the whole narrative was trying to be changed. Other example is when people try to show a violent incident, for example, of some other nation and trying to relate it to India. And they are all trying to do what? Create hate speech, create disturbance, create violence. Okay, this is all. Now, what are the challenges? See, whatever problems these people have is equal to the challenges. What are the solutions? The solutions, the opposite of challenges is the solutions. Okay? Basically, if you're not able to remember, whatever is the opposite of challenges is the solutions, or whatever is the opposite of solutions is the challenge part. Okay. Now, what are the challenges? Unsanctioned and unauthorized commercial exploitation. This is the main part which is in news because all the celebrities are going to the court because of unsanctioned and unauthorized. What is the solution of it is consent. Remember, if consent is done and if they are part and party to the profit making process, this part can be taken care of. Second is plethora of platforms. Where is this, all this derogatory remarks, hota na? Where is all this taking place? On social media. Because social media is what? The new TV. It is almost, televisions have been replaced by social media by in the very palm of your hand. The small mobile phones is now almost the whole world. So there is a plethora of events. For example, you name any few social media platforms. And if someone has found, and another thing is, if you're not complaining, it will keep on going. Something derogatory has been posted about you. Okay? And if you don't take up the initiative of complaining about it, then it will just keep on going. But if you complain, that specific social media profile, that specific platform will be removed. But there are n number of such platforms. And the worst part is, in the same platform also, it can be put up with another name. For example, Telegram. You all know that, right? So many sites, so many web pages are being blocked and at the same time. Next are being created like seamlessly, effortlessly. That is the plethora of platforms. Next is pandemic. These things go viral. Hota na, like Corona. How did it just go viral? The word you are looking for is virality. Okay? And the worst part is, all the social media platforms increase virality with virality. Whatever is being viral, they start promoting it. That is the algorithm. They don't see the content, they don't see the intention. What they see is the number of people who are watching it. And if the number is rise, be it something wrong, be it something derogatory, be it something hate speech related, still they will promote it more because there is no clause for intention in it. That is what pandemic being viral. Next is what? False endorsements, again related to commercialization. There has been a Titans case also. In simple, what the case happened was, there was a jewelry shop who was using the images of the endorsement of Titan and then Titan case, and they won the case. Nothing important. Another example of the Gen Zs will relate to, you see in t-shirts, bags of what? Marvel, DC, all these. Now what does that relate to? It means that, do these people have the permission of Marvel or such entities? No. In mostly no cases, but some do have. So this is again what? Their personality rights. That entity's personality are being infringed. Voice cloning, as I gave the example of that song, that is the extent, and the politician examples also. You might have received the call of the Prime Minister himself before elections. Last is digital impersonification. Someone is exactly trying to copy him. And there are numerous examples. When we'll take a business related example also. Some high profile individual in some high profile company, he got the call of his boss. He might be talking to his boss on a regular basis. So he understood his voice, he recognized his voice, and the boss said to make a certain payment in certain bank accounts. See, I'm not taking any names because this very example has been used n number of times and it has been replicated through n number of people also. Now, it's not just one entity or individual who had been scammed. There were multiple scams going on, same related. So he felt that his boss on call is asking for money and I should transfer it, and it transferred. In the end, what happened was, that was all voice cloning with digital impersonification. Okay, these were the stakeholders and the challenges. Now, what's next? See, this is the whole issue. This in simple has the whole issue. This is to my context, it is an ethical example also. Ironical ethical example. Now this whole ruckus or this whole chaos is being created. Why? I'm using some negative term, but it is creating why? Because we have no specific laws related to personality right. It has been given the protection of being in a fundamental right under the umbrella of Article 21. Very right. But there are no specific laws in CRPC, IPC or Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita relating to remedies if those are infringed. That is the first part. It has been what? Right to privacy, Article 21. We discussed it in Maneka Gandhi case. Remember it once again. Where is it mentioned? See, these two places, right to dignity, has been specifically mentioned, and in reasonable, Article 19 clause 2 has how many reasonable restrictions to freedom of speech and expression? There are 8. But 7 of them are what? Related to public, related to मतलब होता है ना government, only one is related to private, and that is what? Defamation. It is here that defamation, the specific word has been mentioned. Defamation related to both. If the state itself is trying to defame you and private individuals also, both are included. And last, see, intellectual property. There is no umbrella law, but there are other places, tiny bits here and there. That is how the judiciary is trying to understand what is going on. In intellectual property, two things comes up. First is what? Copyrights Act. And the other is Trademarks Act. Okay? These two specifically come under this. And another term which comes under, you have to memorize is, okay? Another term was, okay, we'll get back to it. What was the term? Okay? The term was, it is specifically mentioned in Copyrights Act. Okay? Like we meant now, what is personality right? It is your individual persona. Okay? To some extent, you can also get them trademarked, you can also get them copyrighted, you can to some extent get them trademarked that this is specific to me and no one else can copy it without my permission. But what if, you are something, you've got that charisma, but due to any reason you didn't get it trademarked or copyright, then what happens? There is a, how do I say it, passing off. There is a concept, technically a concept of passing off, which simply means that passing off, you might write it down, which means if you have a special trait, a special characteristic, and you have as of now or as of that date not trademarked it or copyrighted it, still you are protected under the concept of passing off. You don't need to copyright or trademark everything, but if you have something novice, something truly charismatic or something intangible about you, or to some extent tangible also, then you are protected under the what? Concept of passing off. This was that. Okay. Now, so how does, another key term which you need to remember is, if there is no umbrella judgment, then how does the judiciary work? The word you are looking for is piecemeal judgments. मतलब piecemeal क्या होता है? You understand? No? When you eat small bites at a time, that is called piecemeal judgments. Like step by step, process by process, case by case, the whole concept is being involved of judiciary. The whole concept of right to dignity, right to reputation, what everything encompasses in right. Like now under Article 20, everything is there. Internet is there. Right to die is also there. Right to die with dignity is there. Water is, right to healthy environment. So much is being encompassing. That is the idea of piecemeal approach. That step by step, through ages, through generations, through years, it will enlarge slowly, step by step. Okay, that was the idea. Now we'll see a few. See, this is a, it's not very much related to it, but we'll take the example just out of, it is contextual but out of topic, that in India, if an individual being highly charismatic or full of personality traits, incomparable, you cannot copy that person or everyone, but after his death, all those traits are dead. This is what this judgment and another judgment has said, like publicity, privacy rights of Sushant Singh Rajput, not inheritable. If you're dead, it's gone. It's not like private property which goes on for generations. That was yours until that. See, there are contradictory views also. Like in Germany or in USA, your personality traits can be inherited by your future generations or whomever you want it to. But in India, it is not so. This specific case related what? A few gentlemen wanted to make a biopic or wanted to make a movie on him, and his father objected and went to court. But the court said that Delhi High Court refuses to restrain streaming of film based on the actor. Now see, the actor himself is not there, but the film is being made on him. So who will be the judge whether it's right or not? So that is why his father went, and he might have other reasons also. But the Honorable Delhi High Court said that inheritable or non-inheritable. Understood? Now, what were the earlier judgments? You can see it from here. We'll see a few. I'm guessing just two. Just two judgments. The first is not written over here. I'll write it down. The first judgment is R. Raja Gopalan. Versus State of Tamil Nadu. Okay, I'll write it down. R. Raja, R.A. Raja Gopalan versus State of Tamil Nadu. This was held in 1994. This is known as what? Almost the pioneer judgment of personality rights, the pioneer judgment of right to dignity or right to reputation. This term was not coined at that time, but this was one of the first cases in which the courts held of the view that there are personality rights and you cannot infringe on them. But the novel idea of this judgment was the court gave both views, okay, that personality rights should be sacred and protected also. That was the first part. But in the second part, it also said that if it is for general public, होता है ना, benefit of the public, some true legal thing is going on, और मतलब होता है ना, true knowledge, not negative, inflated, होता है ना, just for the public in general, then that can be done. Like if it is for the public interest, then that information can be published without the consent of the person individual. To understand this case better, I'll just somehow tell you a short story about it. ठीक है? This R. Rajagopalan was a serial killer, मतलब serial killer of those times. To some extent, he was the pioneer serial killer also. I'm not sure. ठीक है? So he went to jail. ठीक है? And then some people wanted to make movie, biopic, some magazine, something of that sort with him. So he went to the court and said that no, it shouldn't be done. But in the same judgment, court said that personality rights should be protected also. And in the second part, it also said that if it is for public interest, then it can be published also. It said both things. In between, many other cases also came. Now the second most important cases, and most of them, sorry, not most of them, everyone recognizes gentleman, Rajnikant sir. Okay? He also moved the court, and the judgment was Rajnikant versus Varsha Productions. Okay? So, see, I don't need to explain this judgment because in a fun way, in any case, judgment, whatever, if he is there, he has to win. Okay? There's no denying that fact. If he is there, he is winning. But simply, there was a movie in which the movie's name was Main Hoon Rajnikant, and they were trying to showcase him, okay, through his acts, so through his persona, through his traits. There are most of the things in life which only he can do and none others can do. We all are aware. So that movie was trying to replicate it, and then he moved the court. And in this one, that copy of passing off, the concept of passing was also, you can relate to it, that if you have not trademarked, but you are protected. So what happens in normal cases? So when you and I go to court, there is a whole machinery, and you have to prove that this was not done or this was done by you. But in this case, what happened was, what the court said was, celebrity is clearly identifiable. Like there was some, whatever contradictory views were there, that proved that this is, if this actor is showing Rajnikant or not. Then the court itself said, bro, there's no denying that fact, that he is clearly identifiable, not just in India, almost the whole world. So it's a fun fact. Okay. So he won the case, and there's no second doubt about it. Now, what are the counter views? Because every view has to have a counter view. Okay? That is how you have to write an answer. Now, what are the counter views? And criticism, not criticism. See, the counter view is that, again, the thin line of balance between right to personal privacy and right to freedom of speech and expression. That is a one-liner controversy. Okay? So, personality rights. The law must not overprotect fame. Again, as I said, that if something is for the public interest or something right, legitimate news is being circulated, then that's not wrong. But it should not infringe, or it should not defame, make derogatory comments, remarks, whatever. That is what it's saying. And how will you can't have an umbrella judgment about it. You can't have an umbrella codification about it. So therefore, it is mostly done on a case by case basis. Now, you should need to remember like two cases we remembered in 4. Now these two cases is for the criticism part. DM Entertainment and digital collectibles. In this, what they saw, there has to be a line in which you don't need to overprotect fame. Hota na celebrity, that celebrity is everything. No. There is always Article 19, freedom of thought, expression, free speech and expression. Sorry, I went into the preamble part. And if there's the larger public interest should also be seen. Okay? Not just the celebrity part. Now, what's next is this. The conclusion part. Okay? Very simple. What does in India as per, we don't have any rules, but international examples are USA, Germany, Japan. They have what? Hereditary rights also, as we explained in Sushant Singh Rajput's case, that we don't have hereditary rights, and hereditary rights cannot be passed. But in other developed countries, so what? Developed and liberal countries, this is there. And this is the conclusion part. So somewhat way forward. We are the 4th largest economy. Okay? About to be the 3rd largest economy in a few years, and we don't have any such law. Only legal challenge is what? Again, as we mentioned, there is no umbrella law. Okay? And the worst part is, all these are, see, misinformation, disinformation, the loss of personality rights, loss of dignity, all is happening because of what? The boom of AI, the age of AI, the era of AI. So, implementation in this age is also very difficult because there's a concept known as what? Pacing problem. ठीक है, pacing problem. I have learned this from my teacher himself. So what this says is, by the time, see, making a law takes time, like bill, then act, it takes time. There will be discussions, multiple discussions, pros, cons, so much will go on. So by the time there comes a law on it, that very act or that very incident, that very informational age now has one more ahead. It's not just it's leaping, technology is leaping these days, and our legislature is very far behind. Imagine how many people in the legislature might be aware of the technology behind AI, behind coding. Very few. So by the time those people understand what has to be done, the very technology itself has leaped forward. That is the pacing problem, and it is the 21st century till the end of time problem. Whatever, like for example, mobile phones, till the time our parents understood how to use a normal mobile phone, look at the new technologies these days. Okay? That's what I'm to say. Again, implementation in the age of disinformation, AI era. Okay? Pacing problem. Now, again, a good food of thought. I've shown this slide again, but what about the common citizens? No one is asking this. Why is such a being law made for the celebrities, for the famous people? Why is such a law not being promoted or made into wide circulation? Why not think tanks thinking about to make such a law for the common citizen itself? If common citizens are impacted by where they do go to, like in the case of Rajnikant, the court itself said that he is very easily identifiable. The whole world can identify. But if we people, the common citizens go, what process do we have? We are not clearly identifiable, right? That is what. And the concept of passing off also does not come with us. We have to fight for it. So this is also a food for thought, and that was it for today. Tomorrow we'll continue with the static series. Okay, thank you.